hey, there are so many yummy vegetarian options out there. You could try like lentil soup, veggie burgers, tofu stir fry. The possibilities are endless. The secret rulers of the world. I mean, you've heard this, right? It's a huge accusation, one that just kind of echoes through history. This idea of a hidden hand, guiding the fate of entire nations. But is that what's really going on? Or is the actual truth something, well, a lot more practical and maybe even more fascinating when you get right down to it? All right, let's get into it. Let's separate the history from all the hype. So, to really get a handle on the Rothschilds, we've got to forget all the shadowy myths for a minute. We have to start where they started. And that wasn't in some secret chamber. It was in the Jewish ghetto of 18th century Frankfurt. Okay, so our story kicks off with one guy, Mayer Amschel Rothschild, born back in 1744. He got his start as a court merchant, dealing in rare coins and gems for German nobility, guys like Wilhelm IX of Hesse Castle. But his real genius, it wasn't just finance. It was family. His masterstroke, the thing that changed everything, came in the early 1800s. He sent his 5 sons out to the biggest financial capitals in Europe. So you had Amschel holding down the fort in Frankfurt, the home base. Then Solomon went to Vienna, Nathan to London, which became a real powerhouse, Karl to Naples, and James to Paris. Now, you gotta understand, this was way more than just opening new offices. In an age before a modern international banking system even existed, they literally built their own, and the core of it all was just family trust that made it the fastest, cheapest, and most reliable financial network of its time, period. So if this wasn't some secret society with dark oaths and spooky rituals, how in the world did this powerhouse actually work? I mean, what was the glue holding it all together? Well, the myth loves to paint this picture of secret doctrines and hidden ranks, right? The reality was, honestly, a lot more like a modern family-run company. Instead of all these mystical ceremonies, they had really practical rules about inheritance and who owned what shares. It was pure, unadulterated business. So how did they maintain such tight-knit control? Well, for starters, getting into the network was pretty much limited to blood relatives. And to double down on that, strategic marriages, often between cousins, were super common. This wasn't about religion, it was a cold, hard business strategy. It was all about keeping the money, the information, and the power locked inside the family. Big decisions, they were made in family councils, not some secret chamber. The whole goal was simple: build a self-contained, high-trust international system that nobody else could even dream of copying. Okay, so this brings us to the biggest claim of all, right? The whole pulling the strings of government thing. Did this family network actually run the show from behind the scenes? The real key here is the Napoleonic Wars. You see, these wars created this massive, just unprecedented demand for cash. Suddenly, entire nations needed to fund huge armies, they needed to move money across hostile borders, and issue enormous amounts of debt. For really the first time, governments were forced to rely on private finance. So who had the only network that could handle these incredibly complex cross-border transactions efficiently? Yep, the Rothschilds. See, they didn't cause the crisis. The crisis created the need for them. And this, right here, is the absolute key. Think of them less as puppet masters and more like an essential utility. Seriously. For 19th century governments, they were like the power grid or the water supply is for us today. When you're in a time of massive war and chaos, governments just could not function on that scale without a network like theirs. All right, so if the reality was so practical, so businesslike, where did all these dark myths of global control come from? And why on earth have they stuck around for so long? It was basically a perfect storm of circumstances. Try to imagine you're an outsider looking in back in the 19th century. You see this one family, and they're operating across all these national borders, so their loyalties seem complicated. One day they're financing kings, the next they're working with revolutionary governments, and you have no idea how they make decisions because it's all done in private family meetings. It was completely opaque. All of this just fed directly into the biggest anxieties of the time: rising anti-Semitism and this growing deep mistrust of international finance. It's wild. Their greatest strengths, the very things that made them successful, being discreet, international, and family-run, got twisted and reinterpreted as something sinister. Okay, let's fast forward. Where does all of this leave the family and their influence today in our world? Does that name still carry the same kind of unique power? The reality is, the financial world has changed so dramatically. I mean, the family is still very much active, mainly in things like investment banking and asset management, and they do a ton of philanthropic work, but they're just not that unique, indispensable entity they were back then. Think about it like this. In the 19th century, they had this singular, totally dominant influence. Today, they're one of many, many major players in a global market that is just fiercely competitive. What used to be total family control has become a much clearer separation of ownership and management, just like in any other big corporation. That whole era where one single family network was absolutely essential to how countries funded themselves, that's just over. And that really brings us right to the heart of it, doesn't it? This final thought really nails the historical reality. The Rothschild network wasn't some grand conspiracy designed to control a stable, ordered world. No, it was a practical solution that thrived because the world was so chaotic and unstable. It was a system born out of pure necessity, whose incredible success, ironically, made it the perfect canvas for us to paint all of our deepest conspiracy theories onto.